Hello friends, in today's lecture we will try to understand the entire mechanism from barter to what we have today in terms of exchange. Now, you see, the initial phase was where goods were traded, and you see goods were actually there was no medium of exchange. Currency was not there, so they started an early man they started exchanging goods, like which is very clearly established through this picture, where one person is holding a fish and second one is holding a chicken. So what they are doing is like they're trying to exchange. So if you don't want fish and you have fish in your custody, you can give it to someone else who requires it and can exchange some material against this fish, which may suit your requirement. Now, you see, this is what is called as barter. So, the first mechanism was exchange was barter system. So, barter means changing the goods against some other required goods, but no cash is involved. But sooner, this barter system has a limitation. Means if I don't need chicken but I need milk, and the other person who don't have milk in his custody, you see, then it will be a problematic transaction. Transaction will not complete until and unless I get my desired item. So it is going to be a very complex model. So we bring in this element of currency to make it more easier to exchange. Now you see, the gold standard was the initial one standard which came into existence because every country has its own currency. They have their own gold reserves. So every country's currency is backed by their gold reserves. Some currencies are powerful, some currencies are weaker. Now you see, one major problem with gold standard is currencies can be printed infinite, but gold reserves cannot be increased overnight. What I'm trying to tell you is, like, let's say there is a emerging economy like India or China where production is happening at a very fast rate. Now you see, because market is running so fast and you're producing so much, hence there is a need to get your notes also into circulation. So get more notes printed. But if you are there in gold standard mechanism, you have to first increase your gold reserve to increase your note supply. Yes, if you increase your note supply without increasing your gold reserves, what it leads to? It leads to a very volatile situation. Currency notes were backed by gold or gold reserves, which was kept with central banks. Now you see, this mechanism has a limitation of physical gold kept in the custody of central bank. Now you see, hence there was a serious need to change from gold standard to something else. Now we waited till 1945 when the Second World War ended. There came this concept called as Bretton Woods Agreement. Let me change the slide so that we understand the mechanism. You see, after Second World War, many good things happened. Yes, you see, it was a very devastating period. So post devastation, it is your reconstruction and development stage. So some of the agencies who came in limelight were Bretton Woods Conference, which happened in 1944. Second was creation of IMF and World Bank. These two agencies came into existence. And the third one was establishing a fixed exchange rate system. Yani for every 1 unit of gold, you do have a currency fixed value. So if you need to get some currencies, you have to pay in gold term. And gold is actually used as a reserve for exchanging currency notes. Now you see this thing, what happened is in 1944, Bretton Woods Agreement brought in fixed exchange rates to US dollar. Now you see till date it was up to 1944 it was gold standard. Every country was holding gold reserves. But after 1944 what happened is like looking into the limitation of gold standard mechanism, they brought in a process of thought where it should be one universal currency acting as a medium of exchange for every currency rather than putting gold in place. Why? Because you see, this currency can be printed, gold cannot be generated. Hence, US dollar, because that time after Second World War, USA was one of your leader country. Okay, so because they were at the top, they were the major arms supplier to every country who was fighting World War II. So because they are a big business community, hence US dollar came in as an option to replace gold. Okay, so this brought in some sort of stabilization in international environment, bringing in a common currency for all. Since 1944 till date, you see, dollar is what is dominating your market. Every member country has to procure dollars. They have to procure dollar. They have to procure dollar to. They have to procure dollar, and what they have to do is like they have to give their gold reserves that they were holding in their home country. Now, this is how the entire mechanism started. Okay, so it brought in a stable reserve currency, which can be printed by Federal Reserve as and when you need, and it can be increased or decreased as per the requirement of the market condition. So you are no more dependent on gold. Next is like you see, IMF is an agency which takes care for the stabilization of foreign exchange or for different foreign currencies. So every member nation, whenever they goes into any sort of emergency related to their currency valuation, IMF will be playing a key role. World Bank is an agency which is helping countries to take term loan for developmental purpose. Now you see, because every country was destroyed in World War, so economies are supposed to be reconstructed. Hence, these agencies came to limelight, and they did a commendable job in last 70 years. Now you see, establishing a fixed exchange rate was another mechanism which was actually only after the origination of you see this Bretton Woods Agreement. Now you see now let's go into another important facts. The top 10 countries who are holding foreign exchange reserve. If you see this particular chart, you'll find China is leading this. Okay, if you go to this particular segment of blue, you'll find the gold reserves which are kept by China, then followed by Japan. Japan is a small island nation, but they are holding a lot of gold. Then Switzerland. You see, Switzerland was an art, like you see, is a choice for many countries to keep their like you see funds into Swiss banks. Similarly, we go to Russia, and then India is coming up on fifth. So India as a country is on rank 5 when it comes to gold reserves. So we are holding huge amount of gold. You see, we are the biggest consumer of gold. Every year we consume a lot of gold for jewelry purpose. Our marriages cannot be completed without gold. Okay, so after India, it is Saudi Arabia, Hong Kong, South Korea, Germany, and Brazil, which are in the list. You don't find United States, you don't find Canada, you don't find Australia into this list. Maybe because you see, if they are issuing this particular currency dollar, so like USA is doing it, so you need not to have it. So most of the developed nations don't preserve foreign exchange reserves with them. Next is like you see foreign exchange reserves for India. Now you see it is like the present state of like economy that we have is like India is having sufficient amount. What I say is like India is a big economy, is emerging economy. So looking into what we had in past in 1990s to what we have in 2020s, situation has tremendously changed in favor of India. We are holding US dollar, euro, and all major currencies like yen and a pound. Now you see every bank who is into foreign import export business, they have to hold these currencies. RBI has issued special license to the branches where this type of foreign exchange transactions can happen. So it can be either done by a bank or an authorized dealer in India. So now you see India has a woofing foreign exchange reserves of 600 billion US dollar. Now you see this is a record for 2023. We entered into the second quarter of now June. So January, February, March, first quarter. And this is last quarter four for 23, 24. And now we are in 24. So first quarter was from April, May, June. So first quarter is going on. So if you look at your reserves, you are very well placed at 600 billion US dollars. Now you see what when it comes to foreign exchange, this concept is very important. Convertibility of a currency. Now imagine if I'm going to USA and I'm carrying Indian rupee, you see it is going to face lots of trouble there. Why? Because before leaving this country, I need to convert all my currency into US dollar so that I don't have any trouble. I can simply land there and start exchanging my currency notes. Now you see, this is where this convertibility is very important. There are some currencies which are globally accepted. So if you travel with these currencies, you don't find any trouble because you will get buyers everywhere. But if you have other currencies which are not frequently traded on international market, then there may be a trouble. When you see fully convertibility means where the value of a currency is determined by free market force, which is demand and supply. So you see, most of the countries do have supply, but they don't have demand. Hence, there is no valuation. Now you see here, government has to play a key role. But in some countries, you see, for some countries like US dollar, euro, yen, pound, you go to any country and you'll get your supply uh, as well as you get your demand. So if you have a demand here, then you see you will get your market price very easily. So you'll get buyers. But if you don't have a demand, then you see what it means. You don't have any demand. Means people are not interested to buy your currency. So there you may face some problems in getting them exchanged. So fully convertibility refers to the availability, sorry, is the ability to freely exchange a currency with any other foreign currency, without any restriction or government control. Now, you see, if government is supposed to control it, then this don't means that market forces are playing a key. Okay, so government control is only required when currencies are related to some weak nations. I'll give you one like fundamental here. All developed nations do have currencies which are freely convertible. All underdeveloping and least developed nations, they have fully regulated currencies. Means where government will define their price. Okay, it is not demand and supply. Rather, government will fix a fixed price regime. Okay, fixed price mechanism. So now, what are the features of fully convertibility? So unrestricted exchange, second is like ability to repatriate profits, dividends, and capital. Means you need not to wait for someone's approval in order to take your profits back to your home country. So their government interventions are not there. Government will not limit you when it comes to amount that can be exchanged. So there is no problem. Why? Because these currencies are freely acceptable. So you buy, you sell anything, there is no problem. Transparency is there because you get your valuations on real-time basis. Now you see what is the benefit of fully convertibility. Benefit is like it is good for international trade, investment, and financial integration. You see, country if it is economically developed, it actually indicates the competitiveness and your global influence. Okay. So if India is emerging as a global leader or China is emerging as a global leader, you see it is only possible when Indian rupee and Chinese yuan are heavy in demand and is actually required in day-to-day trade. But you see where right now if you look at your market, you'll find dollar only as the currency to dominate your market. You see in 2008 there was a lot of debate going on where European Union was coming up collectively to bring in euro as a competitor to dollar. But in 2008, post 2008, they do have their European debt crisis, which led to the exit of Britain from this European Union through Brexit deal. And you see, this is what again weakened euro as compared to dollar. So there are some currencies with value may be more costly than dollar, but you see dollar is the most demanded currency across the globe. Now these are some of the dimensions under partial convertibility. Partial convertibility is where government has an intervention in certain currencies. Government do put up a check on what type of transactions will have currency usage. Okay, So, or sometimes government also defines the proportion. Like for, let's say, 100 rupee note, if you're going and trying to do an exchange, let's say for 60% of your value, 60% of your value, it will be, you see, market dependent. Any market will define what will be the price, and for 40% of your value of your currency note, government will define it. So it is a mix of fixed and floating concept together. Okay, government will try to put in a check by putting in something called as fixed valuation for a proportion in the total currency, and for one portion of your currency, it is all market oriented. Now you see, it is actually going to be very complex. Whenever government is trying to come in, it is called as administrative pricing mechanism. Government is trying to bring in some sort of stability, and they are trying to control the actual valuation of your currency. Now you see why it is required is because in market you don't have actual demand. Hence, we have to bring in something which is stationary. So that the government will put in this thing, and then you do have selectivity also in terms of convertibility. Now, some for some goods and services you are allowed to have this exchange, but for capital flows, it is not allowed. Okay, so they are keeping these two things separate altogether. There are some countries who are into full convertibility. You see, European Union, United States, and Japan, they all fall into this category. And for partial convertibility, you'll find countries like Japan, no, sorry, China, India, and Russia. Ruble is belonging to Russia, Indian rupee, and yuan is from China. So these all countries, you will find that government is playing a very important role. Whenever these currencies go weak, government will try to artificially inject forex, means dollar, euro, yen into market, so that their local values of their currency will get appreciated or somewhat stable. Okay, so government regulations are very important in developing nations. Now, factors that influence convertibility. Convertibility means whether it should be fixed convertibility or floating convertibility. You see, this depends on the economic stability of the country or from where this currency is being issued, which includes GDP growth, inflation rates, trade balance, impact of the convertibility on their currency. You see, if you are an importer, you feel good when the value of your currency goes down. Now, no. Sorry, I quoted it wrong. If you're an exporter, then you'll feel good when your currency value goes down. But when you are an importer, you feel good when your currency goes up. So India is mainly a country which is high in terms of import. If you look at your balance of payment or trade, you'll find we are importing more than what we export. So hence, depreciation of our currency is well appreciated. So it helps us to keep things in check. And let's go to the next point, which is, like, you see, government policies. Now, government policies on capital control means what money are you supposed to bring in, or how much money can you take it out from India. So these things, along with exchange rate management, foreign investment regulations, like they all play a key role. Like, are you inviting a foreign direct investment, or how are you treating your foreign institutional investors in your capital market? Well, define it. So next is global demand. Global demand is nothing but, you see, for global trade, which currencies are in demand, for trade, for investment, for reserve requirements. So they all influence global demand for a given currency. So this is again helping you to decide whether it should be free convertibility or it should be partial convertibility. Okay. So next is like geopolitical factors, international relations, how you are putting yourself into a group of 200 nations. You see, they and global events, they all influence the perception and acceptance of a given currency. Like after Russia-Ukraine war, you see, Russian ruble is, like, you see, for many countries, Russia has stopped selling crude oil using dollar. Okay, so dollar is getting replaced with ruble or RMB, their local currency. Now you see, this is what is bringing in a change in your acceptability of your global currencies. Now, factors leading to hyperinflation. Hyperinflation means value of your currency going down like anything. There are countries like Zimbabwe and you see Venezuela. You can study about them because they have seen something which is like impossible. Hyperinflation reaching up to 79.6 billion percent. This is very, very high. And then In Venezuela, hyperinflation exceeded to the tune of 10 lakh percent. Now you see, these countries have seen extreme poverty, inflation, and unemployment. They have gone through a very financial distress period. Now, it happened in Zimbabwe in 2008, and it happened in Venezuela in 2018. Situation is almost same. Currency value is going down. Hence, they have to issue notes worth rupee lakhs and lakhs. Any a single note is worth rupee lakhs, and then value of this note is not there in market. Why? Because there must have gone something wrong, like supply chain disruption. It happens only when there is a, like you see, natural disaster or something, a big event like COVID. But otherwise, this is not going to be there much. Commodity price spikes may be again due to scarcity of resources, and you see commodity food crisis or something. Then you see certain commodities on certain occasions have seen some sort of price hikes. Loss of confidence in the local currency also trigger hyperinflation. Now you see restoring trust back in your system is very important. So this is how you can deal with hyperinflation. So different economies have treated their hyperinflation situation differently. Many a times you get a solution, many a times you don't get a solution. So finally, let's conclude this presentation here. Now you see evolution of global financial system is only, like you see, this process is still into a evolution mode. So now we are going from physical currency to digital currency and cryptocurrencies. Things are changing a lot. Market is very dynamic. So the top countries who are holding it to countries who are not holding it much, they all play a key influence in terms of deciding their mode of selection of which currency are they going to use, and factors of convertibility. So this is what we did. This is what we have